How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo?
So a 30-year-old video of Nancy Pelosi has surfaced, showing her giving a passionate speech eviscerating free trade with China, saying how we need to tariff them because they're taking advantage of us. It literally sounds like she's endorsing what Donald Trump is doing right now. She basically makes the case for why his plan is so good, better than he can. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. We actually just hit 200,000 subscribers, so thank you to everybody for your constant support. But I won't waste your time. Let's get right into Nancy Pelosi cooking, which is something I thought I would never say.
I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of you, each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%, from $3.5 billion then to about $34 billion now. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%. Whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? On exports, China only allows certain industries into China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And it's limitless because we have not placed any restriction.
I mean, what did we just watch? What's most fascinating to me, though, is how this was the Democrat position. But now, just like almost everything else, their party has adopted the complete opposite philosophy. Now they're the free trade unapologists. I know we make fun of the left a lot because they're insane, and we struggle to understand how they've descended into such madness. But when I see clips like this, it just makes me wish that the other side was equally as committed to saving America and making it great. Just imagine if most of the Democrat Congress was on board with cleaning up government corruption, with America First policies that benefited our citizens. Like, I would love that world way more than the current world where I get to dunk on liberals for being insane. So what she showed on that graph was basically the situation the United States got itself into after World War II. A whole bunch of trade deals like that. You take in none of our stuff, we'll take in all of your stuff. And out of the small amount of stuff that you do let us sell in your country, you'll tariff it to the sky so it doesn't sell anyway. And out of the massive amount of stuff we buy from your country, we won't tariff it at all. And we did that because we thought we would make a prosperous, rich world where everyone would be friends and kumbaya and free trade and world peace. And now China, the country we made filthy stinking rich, gave it all of our manufacturing capability, now hates our guts and wants to overthrow us. So don't be mad at Donald Trump that he's trying to fix that problem. But here she continues talking about how this offshore manufacturing has wrecked American jobs.
In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. The president, in his statement requesting this special waiver, said that China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least. Fact is that U.S.-China trade is a job loser.
And what she said at the end only represents our trade with China. It's been the same exact story with the European Union and with Canada and with Mexico. Whose genius idea was it that instead of assembling cars in America, we were instead going to assemble them across America, Canada, and Mexico? For no apparent reason other than to help stimulate the economies of our neighbors. It makes absolutely no sense. Around the time that she's giving this speech is when they're trying to institute NAFTA, which basically sent all of our auto manufacturing to Mexico, because for some reason we didn't think, just like China, who once we let them into the market, they took advantage of cheap slave labor, we didn't think Mexico was going to do the same thing. But they did. Also, Americans could have some cheap year-round avocados. Now, Nancy is not done going in. Again, I don't know if we'll ever see this again in our lives. But here she is talking about how, on top of everything China's doing to screw us, here's where they're really getting us.
Our colleagues on the other side of this issue will say the trade with China, exports to China have increased 3 times in the last 10 years. They have. But they fail to mention that imports from China have increased 11 times, thereby leading to this huge trade deficit. The other issue, in addition, if intellectual property is a $2 billion, $3 billion loss, technology transfer is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. If you want to sell to China, your products into China, the Chinese insist that you open a factory there. They misappropriate your technology, open factories of their own, and then say to you, now we want to see your plan for export. That's as simply as I can say it briefly.
Like, free open trade only works if everyone's gonna play by equal and fair rules. Since the beginning, we brought our factories to China and they immediately stole our technology, stole our patents, stole our designs, stole our intellectual property, stole all of our secrets, militarily and corporate. They would invite American business to come there and take advantage of cheap labor. And then once they get your proprietary designs, they immediately just start remanufacturing it at a lower cost basis and selling it back into your market. And again, what's so bumming is at one point, Democrats believed that we needed to do something about this. Just imagine if they weren't so delusional today. I don't know why the Democrats decided to descend into the party that hates America and turn on their countrymen. Here's where she starts to talk about the actual tangible diminished output of our manufacturing due to the free trade. And remember, this is in 1996. So imagine this problem that she's going to mention, but ongoing for another 30 years. And that's why we're so screwed now.
And the most serious of these transfers of technology are in the airline industry, where Boeing tail sections of the Boeing 737s were mostly made in Wichita, Kansas. Now they are made in Shen province, where workers make $50 a month. And they had the transfer of the technology and the transfer of the jobs has taken place. General Motors, Ford, they're all fighting to get in to build factories there so they can make parts there. They want MFN so they can get those parts back into the United States. So we are exporting not low-tech jobs and textile jobs. We're exporting our technology. Now, if you take a country the size of China, with the very cheap, and in some instances, slave labor, the lack of market access, the rip-off of our intellectual property, the transfer of technology, a country that is not willing to play by the rules in any respect in this trade relationship, you have a serious threat not only to our relationship, but to the industrialized world.
A common argument from the left will be, we don't need to bring back all this manufacturing to America. We shouldn't be spending our time on building out these cheap, useless products. They don't understand. Nobody's talking about opening up toothpick plants across the United States. What we're saying is COVID showed us that we are completely screwed in the event of a global supply chain crunch. There is no reason why we are not manufacturing our own pharmaceuticals. There is no reason we aren't manufacturing the most basic inputs we need for all of our technology to run. There's no reason that we don't have robust steel and shipbuilding industries, because we do live in the real world where we have to be ready for war at any time. Like, the philosophy of the last 70 years is we don't need to manufacture anything. And sure, maybe we don't need to manufacture everything, but we have to be able to manufacture everything we need, and we can't even do that right now. That is not the makings of a sustainable country, one that can't build the things it needs to survive. We just forgot building things was crucial and thought we could rely on the third world at slave wages, and then most of our economy's output became dependent on financial services. We were moving a lot of money from point A to point B, getting rich while creating absolutely nothing, but providing the capital for these other countries to invest in real, tangible infrastructure. Now, the last thing she says, and I wanted to save this for last, is a warning that I wish the current Democrat Party would hear.
And if there's one message that I want our colleagues to understand today and our constituents is that on this day, your member of Congress could have drawn the line to say to the President of the United States, do something about this U.S.-China trade relationship that is a job loser for the United States. And this brings us to the point that others have said, well, we can't isolate China. Do you think for 1 minute that with 10 million jobs at least, and $35 billion and be over $40 billion this year in a trade surplus, all those billions of dollars in surplus, that the Chinese are going to walk away? Where are they going to take 35 to 40% of their exports? Who's going to buy them? This is what sustains the regime. The funding and the jobs. They can't have those people out of work. They have to be at work exporting to the United States.
Instead of trying to play nice and weak, we need to be doing exactly what Trump is doing now, utilizing our economic power and leverage to fix things. We hold the cards. We are the world's piggy bank. We buy everybody's stuff. Yes, they can posture and make their statements and make it seem like they're going to fight against the United States, but they all live in the real world. And they realize if we close off our credit card to the rest of the world and spend that money only at home, their countries are going to be far, far, far worse off than ours ever could. She said at the time of that, we had a $40 billion deficit. Now it is $400 billion per year. $400 billion per year of our money that is going to make an adversary rich. All of the money Chinese businesses make are essentially just the coffers of the CCP. And they use that money to send fentanyl into our country and kill our citizens, ramp up their military, and get ready to fight a world war and disrupt the world order that made them rich. Because now they want to take it over, have control, and not let anybody else ever do what China did ever again. The Democrats are so short-sighted. They're so misguided and delusional, and all they're seeing is red and anti-Trump. They can't even see the writing on the wall. They need to adopt this common sense that Nancy Pelosi had 30 years ago, because if they work together with Trump to make this country better, like politicians should be doing, they are not just helping save our country, they will be helping to save the world. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.